Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify them, my friends. And one topic that I have been dying to talk about on the podcast for a very long time, and I'm super excited about today's guest, is a buzzword I keep hearing all over, but I don't actually think people understand what it truly means. And that buzzword, my friends, is content marketing. I have today a very special guest for you guys who's going to break it down in simple terms. His name is Chris Marr. He's a multi-award-winning entrepreneur who believes content marketing is the only way to set business leaders free from the world of mediocre interruption marketing. We're going to have to ask him what interruption marketing means too. Chris is the founder and driving force behind CMA, which is the Content Marketing Academy, and it's the largest membership organization of its time in the UK. He's raising the bar on talent curation, leadership, personal development, and community building, and his pioneering work has changed the lives of hundreds of businesses all through the power of content marketing. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Chris Marr. Hey, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me today. I'm really excited about this.
I'm so pleased to have you. And first and foremost, our American listeners are going, wait a second, that is a different accent I'm hearing there. Yeah. Where are you from?
I am from Scotland, born and bred on the east coast of Scotland.
Excellent. And I'm so glad that we are connected. Another gentleman who's been on our podcast, Paul Chapman, had recommended you to be the guy, the go-to, to tell us and break down what content marketing actually is. Can you just break it down in simple terms? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, so you're right. It is a bit of a buzzword, and I think marketers have they should be taking the blame for this, right? Because they come up with these buzzwords, and I think a lot of people out there that are running businesses who are not necessarily first and foremost marketers kind of think that when they hear something like a buzzword like content marketing, they think it's reserved for marketers. So they're like, it doesn't apply to me, I don't get it, or it's just another marketing fad, right? Something that will come and go. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that I think there's a couple of things. The first thing that we need to kind of get our mindset into as business owners, we have to think like a customer, okay? Now, or think like a consumer. So even in your own life, how are you buying things today? What's changed for you in the last 5, 10, 15 years in terms of how you buy things? And there's a gap between how businesses communicate and how consumers use information to help them make buying decisions. And it's that gap in the middle that's content marketing. In simple terms, content marketing is just how we have to market our business today in order to get customers, okay? Mm-hmm. So I think that's like the simplest way to say that content marketing is relevant to all business people if we start to understand and look at it like a buying process. How does someone go from being a stranger through to a prospect, through to a customer, through to a loyal advocate of our business? And content is what is at every part of that journey through the process. And it's how someone goes from being a stranger to someone that trusts us. And it's how do we do that in a way that helps our prospects, our potential customers, to do it in a way that it feels like it's on their terms. Now, you mentioned interruption marketing, which I think is key here. Is, a question for the audience is, you have to, what marketing are you ignoring in your own life, right? Mm-hmm. So you think like a consumer, and think about your business and how you're communicating and how you can match those two together. So what marketing are we ignoring in our own life? Why are we ignoring advertising? Why do we not like pop-ups? Why do we ignore radio ads, TV ads, magazine ads? Why are we blind to all of this stuff? How do we use information to help us make buying decisions today? How do we seek and find that information? How do people find you when they've never heard of you before? These are all really important questions to ask yourself as business people. The answer is content marketing. That's where content marketing fits.
So when you say interruption marketing, give us an example of that in our everyday life.
Yeah, an example of interruption marketing is anything that interrupts you in the whatever you're doing, right? So a good example and an everyday example would be radio ads, right? You're listening to a song, even in podcasts, right? You're listening to a great podcast, you're really into it, and then boom, there's an ad right in the middle of it, and it interrupts you, adds no real value, and it just kind of takes you away from what it is that you were focusing on. So anything that interrupts you, I mean, look at everything that you ignore in your own life and everything that you pay for to not be advertised to. So good examples of that would be things like Netflix, Spotify. Just look at your own behavior. You're we're all quite normal in regard to this, in that most of us behave in the same ways. Just look at your own consumer behavior and then try and like reverse engineer that through your business and think to yourself, well, why are we communicating like this in our business if consumers aren't behaving in this way? And it's about how do we match, and this is what we're probably going to get into, I guess, is how do we match those two? How do we fill that gap between what the consumer is looking for and how businesses communicate?
Mm-hmm. And before we dive into that, I'm really just curious about your backstory. Tell us, how did you become such a guru in content marketing in the first place? Were you working in corporate, 9-to-5 job, or what's your path to this?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I wrote and published my first blog in 2010, which is quite a while ago now. Although it was actually quite late in the whole, where I think the people have been blogging for years before that, so it wasn't really new. But I think it was very organic. I think is the best way to explain it. I started a blog. It came from, the reason I started a blog in the first place was I was aware of my own career and thinking to myself, how do I grow my career? How do I advance my career? And I had this notion. I read Gary Vaynerchuk's Crush It. It came out around about the same time.
Yep. And
he kind of really inspired me to think differently about how I shape my career going forward. And it was almost kind of naive and a little bit arrogant even, was that instead of applying for jobs, put my CV or my resume into different jobs, I said, why don't I publish a blog, show people how I think and behave and what interests me, and maybe what will happen is people will be attracted to me the other way around. So I thought, how do I turn the tables? And it was really good. It worked out really well. And what happened was I got my first 5-figure consultancy contract off the back of that blog. And that's where it all started. And I've just, over the years, just got deeper and deeper and deeper into it, to the point where we actually called our company the Content Marketing Academy.
Yeah.
So, it's in our name now, and that's how much we believe in it.
And what were you selling back then? What kind of consultancy were you doing?
I wasn't really selling in it. This is the thing. I was still in full-time employment. I then went on to be a full-time student to do my business degree about 10 years after everybody else did theirs. And it was all, like I said, it was all really organic. I think looking in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been in a job. I think I was always the type of person that was going to start my own business. And I think the blog and social media and blogging and content really helped me to figure that out. It was kind of like a bit of a journey for me to kind of figure out what I was passionate about, what my purpose was going to be. And that first contract that I got really sort of drew a line in the sand and said, this is what you should be doing, Chris. And it was business services, it was consultancy, it was marketing, sales, everything to do with that. So I kind of leaned into what I was studying at the time.
And who are some of your earlier kind of role models or mentors? You mentioned the Gary Vee book, which is an excellent book. We'll put the link down in the show notes for people to check it out. But what else was really inspiring you early on?
Oh, that's great. Loads of great people. Gary Vaynerchuk was a big inspiration for me at the start. Not so much now, I would say. I think really early on, he did really inspire me. And then I had lots of good people around me. My stepdad, my dad, my mum, they all helped me and inspired me allowed me to cleared the path for me, essentially, to do whatever I wanted to do. Mark Schaefer was a big influence early on. Anne Handley was a big influence early on. Those were the biggies, I would say, in terms of really David Meerman Scott, really trying to shape what I believed about marketing and what I believed about communication and how I wanted to go to market. Those were the big three, I would say. Yeah. Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about sort of the buyer's journey. So let's walk through that. And I think that's really fascinating because I think sometimes we as small businesses, and I'll be the first to admit guilty at times as well, think, well, I'm just doing social media, right? Isn't that enough? Chris, come on, isn't that enough? Like, talk us through the buyer's journey in their sales process to buy something. Give us an example and some concrete ideas.
Yeah, I can give you one example, and I think there's a couple of questions in there, isn't there, as well, about the difference between social media and content, and hopefully we'll get to that, or at least explore it a little bit. But I believe that the first thing we get people to do is understand content and how content marketing is really a sales process. So understanding, like I said, how someone goes through this process of making a buying decision, and content marketing is really there to help a prospect to make an educated buying decision, to feel confident about the decision that they're making, and confidence breeds trust as well. So how do we do all of that? And we have to be transparent and honest, and it's not about pulling the wool over people's eyes or any tactics. It's about listening to your customers, answering their questions and their problems, and realizing and understanding the behavior has changed. As people aren't picking up the phone anymore, they find all their information online in most cases. And one of the big numbers that really is the foundation of content marketing and this whole buyer's journey is understanding something called the 0 moment of truth. And this is research that was done by Google, right? So they have all the numbers, right? We have to trust Google. They've got all the data. They know exactly how we seek and find information and use that information to make buying decisions. And the 0 moment of truth is really, in summary, the statement that really emphasizes this is that on average, 70% of the buying decision is made online before someone contacts a business for the first time. 70% of the buying decisions made online before someone contacts a business for the first time.
7-0. Yeah, like these are people that are lurking behind the scenes you haven't even touched, you haven't even made contact with, that are already deciding. That's so interesting.
And the key thing here is that they're deciding both ways. They're deciding whether they're going to do business with you or not before you even know. So the key here is there's two main, there's good news and bad news. The good news is that if you're creating content that answers questions and solves problems and allows people to find you when they're looking for you and perhaps never heard of you before, then you've got a seat at the table when it comes to decision-making time, who they're going to contact, who they're going to visit first. You're at the table. The bad news is if you're not creating content that allows you to be found online while someone's making this buy, while they're in this 0 moment of truth, then you don't have a seat at the table. Your phone isn't going to ring. You aren't going to get those contact forms filled out on your website. And that's like the brutal truth of it. So if you're not trying to win this 0 moment of truth, you're losing customers that you never even knew you had the chance to get. Yeah. And that's really like that's really the first thing that we try to educate people on is the 0 moment of truth, because usually when they hear that, they go, right, there's a case for content marketing, right? This is why we need to do it. And that's where when you come back to the buyer's journey, Mary, like you were asking, the question you asked there was that's the first step. Right? How do people find us when they've never heard of us before? Yep. How do we make sure that we can be found online by creating content? This could be videos, podcasts, blogs, whatever it might be. But we do this in a way that is focused, centrally on the prospect, right? What questions are they asking? What problems did they have? Why are they not buying from us? What sales objections do they have? And what are they typing into something like Google to find that information? So this is where it kind of flips for a lot of people, understanding that actually it's not about the services you offer yet. Yep. It's not about the products that you offer yet. So we need to be crafting content that talks to our customers in their terms, in the way that they want to find information. And that's the opposite of interruption marketing, right? They discover it for themselves.
Right. So let's pause right there, because I think there's a lot of good stuff that you just said that I want to make sure that we unpack and break down in simple terms. So something we have been doing as of late on the Simplifiers podcast is really optimizing how we name our podcast episodes, and thinking in terms of what would our listeners want to search for. For example, we had an episode a while back that was how to build an email list. We brought list building expert Jenny Shee on. So if somebody using that search function in Apple Podcasts or iTunes or wherever and just simply typing in, how do I build an email list? Then it's like, boom, there's our episode. It pops right up, rather than just saying, oh, here's a conversation we had with Jenny. It's like being very specific. So have you seen other podcasts that are doing that are optimizing the search title just to make sure we're, getting the keywords and hitting the right people?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a great example. I think we want to see that, and it's actually one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make with their blogs, videos, and podcasts is they craft a title that's like sexy or like almost clickbait like. Yeah. But they're very rarely found in search. So if you can do a little bit of search engine optimization there, do a little bit of, sorry, that's a bit of a buzzword. If you can do a little bit of research around what people are searching for, and then craft your titles around, for whether it be blogs or videos or podcasts, whatever the content happens to be, crafting your titles to lean into that, then that makes much more sense. You're going to have a better chance of being found. So that's a really smart thing to do, Mary. And I think it's one of the biggest pieces of learning that takes place when someone is, say, for example, been blogging for a while and they're trying to figure out, well, why are we not getting enough traffic? Why are we not getting any leads? And it very oftentimes it's the fact that their titles are crafted in the way that doesn't drive organic traffic to their website.
And I think sometimes I again can speak from my own failures and fumbles over the years. I've been doing this for 14 years now, so I've certainly had my fair share of blunders. But I think what happens is early on in your business, you go, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to ask anybody. And you just go and you throw out, like, vomit stuff out on your social media or wherever. And, you don't actually stop and pause and do a bit of market research and ask your audience, like, where are you struggling right now? Where do you need more resources or advice or podcast episodes or whatever it is in, this area. And I think sometimes people just don't do that legwork, right? So what's an easy way to just do some of this kind of market research, asking your audience?
Yeah, I mean, listening is the first step, like listening actively. So we all get, like, so one of the quickest ways to do this is to check your sent box and your emails, right? So what questions have you replied to in the past already? Those are potential videos, blogs, or podcasts, right? And you mentioned a really key word, actually, Mary, which is specific. Specificity is the key to being successful with content marketing, is going really deep, getting very specific, and then be able to craft content around that one specific thing. And that applies to any type of content, I feel. And so your sent box, your inbox, obviously, listening to the conversations, that even if you've got a small team, say you've got 4 or 5 people in your business, maybe somebody is like primarily focused on customer communications or sales, is really trying to get the sales people or the salesperson in your organization or whoever's at the dealing with the customer experience is to, we get asked this question all the time. Everyone seems to be having this problem. Why have we not addressed this stuff on our website? Why have we not crafting content around this? One of the biggest wins I find, or the quickest wins that people get with content marketing, is saving time. One of the biggest excuses we get for not doing content marketing is because people don't have time. But one of the biggest wins is time saving, because one of the biggest wastes of time in business is fielding inquiries. So if we can field less inquiries and get more highly qualified leads into our business through content, so people can qualify themselves, so they can answer their questions are answered online, we create content that deals with all of that, then your salespeople are going to get better leads. And if we can get sales and marketing working together, I think this is the best way to do it. So embrace your customer-facing team person, whoever that is. It might even be you if you're like a company of one. What questions are you being asked? What problems do people have? And another key one as well, I feel it like really drives great ideas, is why do people not buy from you, or why would someone not buy from you? And thinking about, like, what content do we need to create that helps people understand that there is this general perception or stereotype about our industry, like this is like we're too expensive, or I've had a bad experience in the past, I don't trust your industry for whatever reason. And writing content around that to help people feel more confident when they're buying from you. There's nothing more like I'm a marketer, I'm in the marketing industry, and people don't trust marketers. I'm not working from like zero trust. I'm working from negative trust. So I have to kind of like really build.
You're right there with like, realtors, right? Real estate agents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, how do we almost, through content, you can differentiate you and your company just by being honest and thinking to yourself, well, if people are asking these questions and people are telling each other these stories and having these experiences, how can we help people feel more confident to make a great buying decision in our industry? And this is like another level of, it's almost a higher level of thinking in terms of content marketing. This is not about you or your business or even your products and services. This is about helping people to have a good experience in your industry, right? So they might visit your website, they might read your content, but they might be in a different country entirely, but they can say that they felt confident and had a great experience because of you, right? And so it's not always just about getting sales. It's about this, I think, really about providing content that really helps people to feel confident.
And, just to break down what you said there as well, I think there's a key point. We do a one question survey after every launch. The enrollment window's closed, everything's done, and the people that didn't buy, we asked them that one question: why didn't you buy? And just simply give us an answer, and we can break it down in multiple choice to make it stupidly simple for them to do it, right? Or if they want to give us more information, they can fill in the blanks. Now, we don't always get a great response rate, but it's so important for you, the small business owner, to not be afraid to ask. Because I think a lot of times we get too afraid to ask because we're like, oh, they didn't like me. They didn't buy my thing. And like, oh, you feel really discouraged. But that's where the juice is. That's where the good learning is why didn't you buy? I mean, we did a launch one time where, we didn't hit our sales numbers by any stretch of the means, but we actually found in the market research afterwards that one question, it was because our audience, it's not that they didn't love the product. It's they said over and over again, well, hey, we're about to go on vacation. We're going on holiday, in the next few weeks. So that commitment of having a weekly call just doesn't work for us during this time of the year. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, that educates our next launch cycle to not launch that particular product during that particular time of the year. So if you are listening, ask the question. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the questions that's worked really well for us is like, what is your single biggest challenge with growing your business right now? Or what's your single biggest challenge with your website? Getting really specific with the question, but make it super simple to reply as well. Like, I think it's one of the, even surveys is a really good example, Mary. Is just like, why do we ask you send a survey out with 15 questions and it's no wonder nobody fills it in, right? One question, one answer, really simple stuff. But there's loads. This is one of the things I think that stops people in their tracks sometimes. It prevents them from moving forward with content marketing or stops them altogether. And that is not having enough ideas. And the truth is that there's hundreds of ideas for you. Whoever's listening to this just now, there's hundreds of ideas for you. You just need to kind of let yourself go into that space. So listening and asking. Look at the most popular books in your industry. Look at the contents. Answerthepublic.com is like a place to go for brainstorming stuff, like Quora, Reddit. Just go out there and look at what's on Google. Type stuff into Google, see what comes up. There's so much content that you should be creating, and I feel like it's just up to you really to buy into it and say to yourself, I'm going to spend time exploring this and coming up with ideas. And you should be able to, one of the challenges I give people often is to come up with 50 ideas. And if you can come up with 50 ideas, then you've got a weekly blog article for a year, and then the ideas will just keep coming. You will never stop.
Yeah. So highlight what you just said, answerthepublic.com. We'll put that link down in the show notes as well as Quora. Excellent. It's a very clever little website. I highly recommend checking that out. You can type in a topic and boom, it just gives you a plethora of ideas to expand off of. So we talked a little bit about it. Is content marketing the same as social media or is it different? What do you think?
Well, I feel like it depends what mood you get me in sometimes. So I really feel like there's two steps. So first of all is if you're doing, I think a lot of people try to replace content marketing with some activity on social media. I feel like social media is really leans into promotional types of strategies. In other words, reach, getting your content, getting more reach for your content.
Right.
I think, and this is why I always pull people back from social media is like, let's look at rich sources of content first. Let's get you creating blog articles or videos or podcasts, something that you own, something that you can sort of call your own and it's an asset for your business. In other words, it increases in value over time. And then social media is a great place for you to go out there and get engagement with your audience and perhaps get more ears or eyeballs onto your content. But it comes back to how you define content marketing. And if you look at content marketing as part of a sales process, then social media absolutely should be part of that.
Well, I always think it just comes back to building know, like, and trust. And I think where you get out of balance, I'm a Libra, so I talk a lot about balance in my own life, but where you get out of balance is you sort of put all of your eggs into, oh my God, all my people are on Instagram, so I'm going to spend, 4, 5, 6 hours a day on this one platform. So I think what I hear you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is what if you spent some of that time creating assets that live on your website, that, creating blogs or videos or things like that bring that, with tags and hyperlinks and all that, brings that natural search traffic to your site. Is that what you're saying? Or is it, just kind of having a bit more balance behind it?
yeah, it's like having a foundation is
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, like you need to. You're right. A lot of people do try to replace social media, with like instead of focusing on their website. But I think there is only upside to investing time in content marketing. It will really light a fire under any social activity that you have just now. And at the end of the day, like if you think about what type of leads that you want to get for your business or what type of prospects you want to get for your company and how easy you want them to come, right? So there is nothing better than organic traffic to your website that is relevant for you in terms of prospects. They want to buy what you have to offer and they're filling in the forms and they're clicking to buy. There's nothing better than that. Like that is the ultimate, is having that organic free traffic to your website that want to buy from you. And if you can place that together with some really good social activity where your customers are hanging out, you're getting engagement and you're building trust, then I think you've got two really good assets. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing both, but I really do feel strongly that if you're doing a lot of social activity, then I really think you should be pushing some of that time into creating some rich source of content for yourself. And again, the other way around as well. If you're really only focusing on writing blog articles, for example, I really think you should be investing in video and also into social.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there is a delicate balance there, because I've certainly seen some hotshots on social media and you're like, oh, wow, they're doing all this stuff here. And then you click through to go to their website and their website's crap. And you're like, instantly as a buyer, I go, is this a legitimate business? That's the very first thought I have.
Such an amazing point to make. And I think a lot of people they still, because social media is so easy to make everything, it's not difficult to make your business look good on social. But if you are running a business that you feel, so like this comes back to this is another conversation, but branding is absolutely fundamental in terms of differentiation, I think, today, because there's so many businesses out there. It's so easy to set up a business. Investing in your brand and having a legitimate business website content, it all ticks all the boxes. It makes you different as well. I think if you look at one business versus another, if your prospects are comparing you against your competition, there is absolutely no doubt about that. So how can you differentiate? How can you look better? How can you breed trust? How can you help your prospects feel more confident? And I think in the end, you differentiate yourself naturally from your competition.
Well, and I want to clarify there is that you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds to get a super, super slick website. I think, I subscribe to the lean business methodology of, put something out there, test, iterate and pivot, and keep going and going and going. You build a website over time. In my opinion, websites are a work in progress. I'm literally every week changing some element of my website, but I think it's important to put your best foot forward there. And at the end of the day, I think your customers are looking at you and your online presence nowadays and going, can I trust that she is going to deliver the results? Can I trust that she is going to take my pain away, whatever that pain might be? I need a graphic designer, I need a wedding planner, I need a caterer, I need a whatever. That's what they're saying in their mind. Can I trust that if I put money on the table, this is going to deliver the results or remove the pain, right? Is there anything else that a buyer's thinking?
I think that's the key. It's just thinking about how you can build as much trust as possible using all the assets that you have to hand, right? So I think we wrote an article about this a while back, actually, Marr, about, I think it was like 10 or 11 ways to build trust on your website. And, things like social proof, people need to see that you have sold something in the past. So, that's usually testimonials or case studies or something, just that element of social proof, but nothing, it takes you so long to build up trust, right? But you can lose it in like the blink of an eye. Yeah. Right. So I think it's really important to understand that every single step of the way is about just adding are building more trust with that person that wants to buy from you.
Right. So again, just to close the loop on what we talked about earlier, think about your own personal buyers and their personal process, their journey through, lurking to putting cash on the table to purchase your thing. So what are the steps that he or she needs to go through, and what hurdles do they need to overcome in order to go from maybe to heck yeah, let's do this? So is there any final tips that we should think about or really keep in mind in that process, things that people blunder it up always?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There are lots of mistakes that people make. I think making it really easy for someone that does want to buy from you is like a really fundamental thing. So I think looking at the customer experience on your website, if that's how you do business or how you get people to contact you, it has to be really easy.
Yep.
And one thing to keep in mind is that your prospects aren't really comparing the experience that they have on your website against your competitor's website. They're judging you against the best experience they've ever had online. So that's kind of it's a really high benchmark, but that's really where we need to be. It needs to be slick, it needs to be easy. So really thinking about that whole process, even when someone lands on your homepage for the first time, what's the purpose of your homepage? What do you want them to do next?
Yeah.
Right? That's what we need to be thinking about. And really making content. People want to find what they're looking for quickly and easily. If they can't find that, they are going to go somewhere else if you make it remotely complex for them. So I think we need to think like a consumer, like we said at the very start, and how do we make that whole process really easy? And I think when it comes back to really talking about content, Mary, as well, is to know and understand that people need different types of content at different stages of the journey. So I think this really kind of like closes the loop on what you were talking about there, is that at the start, it's like they don't know who they're looking for. They don't really know what like product or service is going to solve their problem, not yet. But then they start to they'll find it really, really quickly. So they go from being like a stranger in some sort of problem solving mode, trying to find information, and then they get into something like a consideration stage and are like, right, there are a couple of different products or services that are going to solve my problem. And it looks like there's maybe 2 or 3 different suppliers that might be able to do that for me. And then, so at that stage, they're looking at price, they're comparing products, they're looking at reviews, they're looking at like testimonials and stuff like that and case studies. And then they're going to move into a decision-making stage. All right. And so they're going to need different content at that stage as well to help them make a buying decision. So it's how does your content help someone move through that journey, making sure you've got all the different types of content at each stage. And at this stage, you should be able to say, actually, we don't do enough of this type of content. And that's maybe the gap that we need to fill to move people through the buying process quicker and to get them to pay us money faster, which is the end of the game, right?
And put their nerves at ease. I mean, that sounds a lot like the process that we follow when it comes to marketing our business. We break it down in 3 phases. There's awareness phase, there is consideration, and then there's time to buy, which I think breaks down exactly what you just said. So I love hearing other people are doing, we're doing the right thing. So, awareness is just simply the lurking stage, right? We're not in active sales mode. We're just, giving you more evidence that you can know, like, and trust us. Consideration is going, okay, well, I'm considering purchasing private coaching or, going to this event that the Simplifier is producing, and then time to buy is when it's like, okay, the shopping cart is closing, the enrollment window is closing, it's time to make a decision. And this is the, moment of truth kind of thing as well. So that's great. So talk us through, you mentioned briefly Quora or Answer the Public. What is your brainstorm process of generating ideas for content marketing?
Yeah, this is really so it's all fine and well having kind of like some sort of like ideology or philosophy about content marketing, right? But we need to have some structure as well, I think, and some sort of so I believe when we're teaching content marketing, it's very much from a commercial and strategic perspective. So helping people to understand what content marketing is, but how it actually grows their business. So a lot of people will say things like, we're doing content marketing, but we aren't getting customers. And I'll say, well, you're not really doing content marketing then, because content marketing is supposed to be a strategic and commercial activity in your business. So when it comes to crafting ideas, we have to, first of all, understand the 0 moment of truth. And then it's a case of, well, what information are people looking for? And it comes down to 5 key areas. We teach people these 5 areas to craft their content around their services and the products and the questions and problems that your prospects have, which is price, cost, problems, reviews, best of, Those are the types of areas that we're looking for, right? So price, people don't want to just know what the price is, but they want to understand pricing in your industry. Like, so what makes the price go up? What makes the price go down? Why are these so expensive? Why are these guys so cheap? They're looking to compare products and services. We're looking at reviews. We're looking at best of type stuff as well.
Yeah.
We're doing all of this stuff online. So we try to get, this is all based on the they ask you answer philosophy that Marcus Sheridan has created. And he calls this the big five, the big five topic areas that will move the needle in every industry. And understanding that is a case of just like building out a matrix after that. So you've got the big five areas, you've got your products and services, start to fill in the blanks, and you should be able to create a ton of ideas. And really this content that we're talking about here isn't about having hundreds of thousands of views or listens. This is about getting customers. It's about getting your prospects over the line. It's about sales.
Yeah.
So in some cases, people think, it sounds a bit boring. It doesn't sound all that exciting. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be about getting your customers through a buyer's buying process and getting to buy from you.
Right.
And that's what content marketing is truly all about.
So let's recap. You said the big five. What are the big five again?
Price, cost, problems, versus comparison, reviews, and best of.
Best of. And what do you mean by best of?
Like, so you can have lots of things like, so say, for example, you are a shed manufacturer, or in your case, like a summer house, a shed, something wooden in your back garden. Okay. I always get this mixed up because in America, a summer house is a house that you have for the summer.
Right.
In Scotland, a summer house is a wooden shed, a really nice wooden shed in your backyard. So imagine you're a shed manufacturer. The best could be like the top 3 shed manufacturers in Scotland. It could be the top 3 types of wood to use for your shed in Scotland. Those sort of things, the top 3 or the best paint for your shed. It could be things like that. So it's really about using your expertise to give people information to help them make a buying decision. Again, education. Like if your customers are more educated, they're going to be more confident and they're going to trust you. So it's really about creating content around those sort of things. But it works both in B2C and B2B type businesses. We've seen it work really, really well. And also what we've seen as well is that when people do a mix of what we call big five type content and other types of content, there's no argument that the big five content drives the most traffic, gets the most leads.
And are you suggesting that in the big five, you just choose one of those and focus on that in a blog post? Or would you have a strategy of putting a couple of those points in a video? What are your thoughts?
Sure. So the more specific you can get, the better.
Right.
But you could you could stack them. That's what we call it, stacking. So for example, you might do a best of post might also be a review post or a comparison post, right? So you might take 2 products in the marketplace that you are going to review and use this versus that as a comparison, but it's also a review, but it could also be a best of post as well. So you can stack them. And inside there, you might talk about pricing as well. So you can mix it up a little bit, but I think that it makes sense to have like a single purpose, like a overarching purpose. Like what is this article really about? It's a comparison article, but we cover many things within it. So yes, you can stack them.
So small business owners listening, they're getting excited about this. This sounds like something that they really want to dive into or take a little bit more seriously, not just do sort of the spray effect of throwing things out there and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Do you recommend people have like editorial calendars or publishing calendars to track like when they're posting what and all of that stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think yes is the answer. It doesn't have to be complex though. Like you could literally get your content schedule onto one side of A4 paper or something like that.
Yep.
What you're publishing, when you're publishing it, who's responsible for publishing it, why we're publishing it, how we're publishing it. Just keep it really, really simple, especially since when the audience is possibly companies of one or really small enterprises, is that you don't need to have like a content schedule like a Netflix show. It doesn't have to be that complex. But to stay, and I think this is it's a debate that's happening just now in our industry and the content marketing side is like this whole quantity versus quality argument or debate. And I would have to say that today it is quality first and then quantity. So don't say to yourself, we're going to publish every single day, and then like you really just spread yourself thin and it's really just surface level content. I don't think that's going to make a single bit of difference these days.
Yeah.
I think if you said to yourself you're going to publish once a week and that weekly piece of content that you were creating was of superior quality compared to what else is in the marketplace right now, it was better than the rest,
Yeah.
then I think that would be a better use of your time.
Well, and I think that that's where a lot of small business owners really struggle because they go, well, Chris, how in the world do I, post on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and Snapchat and LinkedIn and and write on a blog and be on a podcast and do and I need to sleep. So let's have a meltdown for a second and then come back to center because people get overwhelmed. So do you have any advice there of like how to overcome the overwhelm when it comes to content marketing?
So you don't get distracted by what other people are doing, right? This is the one thing that really, and comparing yourself to other people, especially your competition. Your competition do not pay your bills. So don't be focused on them. Don't get distracted by what other people are doing, and don't get distracted by new shiny tools that are coming out. The number one thing that we need to focus on as business owners, you don't need a personal brand. You don't need to have like 1 million followers. What we need is really good, highly qualified leads and prospects for our business.
Yep.
What is the best way to do that? That's what we need to be focused on. And we don't have time to do Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, blah, blah, blah. Pick like one or two that you really feel that you can do well and be world class at that.
Yeah.
You can't be world class at everything. You're a business owner first and foremost. And secondly, you're a marketer and a salesperson, right? That's what we are as entrepreneurs. We have to be the best marketers in the world are entrepreneurs. That's how we operate. We're not going to be experts at every single piece of content. We're not going to be experts at every single social media platform either. So pick what you're good at, pick what you like, pick where your customers are, and do it really, really well. If you're not going to do it well, get off of there.
Yeah. And is it okay to just put something like, if Twitter's not your jam and that's not where your audience is, to put a pinned post at the top that says, hey, come check me out on Instagram. I am way more active over here. Or something that says, hey, I'll be back in 30 days. See, click here for tips on blah, blah, blah blog post. Do you think that's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. But let's be honest. How many people are waiting for your tweet? No one.
Chris, come on, you're bursting my bubble.
No, I go onto Twitter and I'm like, oh, why is Mary not tweeted for a while? Or why is Chris not tweeted for a while? Nope, we're not waiting.
No one cares.
No one's waiting for you to post your content. So just if you can be bold enough to decide.
Yes.
This is where we're good, and this is what we do. I've seen many businesses now just completely dialing down where they're good, and they're like, we're on Twitter. That's it.
Yeah.
We're going to do any of these other platforms. Twitter's where we're at. We do it well, and we know we can do it well. So the best thing to do is to kind of scale up instead of just starting your business or we're going to do everything and then scale down. The best thing you can do is to scale up the way and be good at the things that you do and show that you're world class at it.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than going to a business's profiles. I say there's nothing worse. That sounds a bit dramatic. But when you go to a business profile on one of these platforms and it's just like a ghost town, and we were just talking. I was literally just having this conversation yesterday and talking about what social media platforms we're going to come off of because we're not doing it any justice. We're not doing it well enough. We're certainly not getting any value from it, and we're not giving any value there either. So I think we just need to be honest with our time, with what time we're putting into something. Realize that our time is our number one asset that we have. You spending an hour on Twitter is an hour you're not spending with your family, for example, or doing something much, much more valuable. So we have to say, well, where are we spending that time and how valuable is it?
Yeah.
And when you break it all down, there is nothing more valuable than spending time creating a piece of content that you can use time and time again through the future. So if you're doing hours on social media versus hours on content, I would heavily weight and value content hours spent. That's much more valuable than social media, I think. I
agree. And I think personally that if a brand new social media platform comes out, go ahead and grab your name. So you've got it, grab it. And, no one else is ever going to take it later. And then once you're ready to expand to it, go for it. But otherwise, I think laser focusing down onto the platform where your audience actually is and where you actually like to, communicate and play on, then go for it. We give you permission.
You have to kind of just decide.
Yeah.
And think about yourself, what's the purpose of our business? What are we here to achieve?
Yep.
And if you've done all of these things already, if you've got a great product and a great service and you can deliver it world class, if you can do those things already, then we can think about all the extra things we can do. But the case is, this is not the case. People are distracted by all of the tools,
Yep.
and they're delivering a mediocre service and an okay product, right? We need to be better than that. The thing that will stand the test of time is the legacy you leave for the products and services that you offer, not because you had a viral tweet, you know. So just, what's important first, and then what's going to help us to be better, I think is the key.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, thank you so much. You are a wealth of knowledge. I sadly have to wrap this up, but I like to ask a few questions that I like to ask all of our guests on the podcast. Sure. First and foremost, where do you hang out the most online? Talking about social media, where do you hang out? Where can people find you?
My favorite platform is Instagram, at Chris Marr 101. But you'll also get me on Twitter with that as well.
Great. So we'll put the links down in the show notes, and his last name is spelled with 2 R's, so Marr there as well. So Chris, tell me, what's maybe one book you're reading right now, or a blog that is really inspiring you, or maybe even poking at you and challenging you a bit?
Yeah, so I could give you an author rather than a book, because I think all his books and blogs are excellent, and that's Ryan Holiday.
Yes.
Ryan Holiday's books, I've got, sitting here with Ego's the Enemy on my desk just now, which I've read a couple of times, and he really opened my mind to Stoicism and Seneca and all of that stuff. So I think that's really challenging my philosophy at the moment, and it has been for the last little while, last sort of 6 months to a year.
How so? And, what's changing?
I've read a lot of books on, say, for example, marketing and sales and things like that. And by reading it, I just don't want to read another marketing book. This stuff goes beyond that. It's almost like it's really challenging you to be better, be more yourself, I think, and believe in yourself and give you more self-confidence, but not in a way that makes you kind of like want to ever be like a guru or anything like that, but actually having your own thoughts and your own opinions about stuff. And I think it's a higher level. Like, so if you've got like a really solid philosophy, like how you see the world and how you believe you should behave, then, the marketing or whatever your expertise is, I think you can deliver it in a far more impactful way. So, picking an author like Ryan Holiday and just like reading all his blogs, reading all his books and studying them, I think has helped me to be a better marketer as a result, even though they're not about marketing. Or for anybody listening, it'll make you better at whatever the thing is that you do. Yeah. Even though it's got nothing really to do with it. So for most of us, even the people listening today, it isn't a lot about listening to another podcast or reading another blog. That's not going to make a big difference to what you need to do. I think a lot of us, it's based on conversations I've had, is that it's a philosophy that we need to shape. It's how we think and how we see the world that we need to shape. I think that has a much bigger impact on us. Yeah.
Is there one app, even though we're not trying to chase bright, shiny objects right now, but is there one app right now in your life that is helping you simplify? Not necessarily in content marketing, but just in your life.
Yeah, simplify. Oh God, I don't know if there's anything that's making my life more simple. One of the things I did at the start of the year was I installed Rescue Time onto my desktops. I installed an app called Moment, I think it's called Moment, onto the iPhone. Yes. And the purpose of that was to track how much time I was spending in certain places. I also put on auto sleep as well onto my iPhone, so I could track my sleep. So I think those apps are all the one and the same thing, really, was just to be able to hone in where I should be spending my time a little bit more. So those apps have helped me to make my life less complicated by choosing where I spend my time.
Yeah, I have all 3 of those as well. And Rescue Time, the very first time I downloaded it on my desktop, I was like, holy cow. Yeah. I didn't realize I spend so much time doing this. And so it's really nice because it gives you a very honest little data report every week of like, oh, right, I need to pull back on that a bit or whatever.
You think you're looking at someone else's chart.
Yeah, you're like, no, there's no way I'm online that much. Oh, no, you are. Yeah. It's tracking it. So who's maybe one person that you think we should interview on the Simplifiers podcast, and why? Somebody in your circle of friends or network.
God, that's a really good question. There's so many good people.
Somebody who can simplify something for us and break it down in simple terms.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of someone different. So like my stock answer for this would be Marcus Sheridan because he's someone that I live up to as well. But he's very much in the content marketing space, although he would probably bring something new, especially from a communications perspective. So he might be someone to look at, Marcus Sheridan.
Yep.
I'd look at someone like Scott Stratton, for example. He's highly influential and a really funny guy. Yeah, oh God, I could go on, but those are like two that pop
What does
into my
Scott
head.
do?
Scott's like a storyteller. He's a marketer first and foremost, but he's an amazing speaker. And he's a storyteller, so he's got like loads of great stories about brands, how they've like really wowed people, and what it takes to be a great brand and create a story for your brand as well. So
great. Well, we will reach out to both of those guys and get them on the podcast in the future. So, Chris, gratitude and simplicity, in my opinion, go hand in hand. What's one thing you're really grateful for right now in life?
yeah, so I'm grateful for my health, I think, probably first and foremost. I've taken it for granted, I think, over the years, but I'm approaching 40 is not far away for me, so kind of aware that I need to be better at managing my own health. So I'm grateful for that because it allows me to be a good dad and have fun with my kids.
Yeah, great. And just a reminder to you guys, you can check him out online at the Content Marketing Academy. .co.uk. Again, his links are all in the show notes. You can check that out as well. And then you've got a live event coming up in November, WCC, the World Class Communication Event in Edinburgh. So when do the tickets go on sale for that?
I think you can reserve a space just now.
Okay.
Add yourself to like a waiting list at the moment, but the tickets will go live probably in the next month or so. So it's probably about July time.
Yeah.
There'll be tickets available.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So that's wcc-live.com. And again, the link's in the show notes for you guys as well. So my last question for you is this, Chris. You've scared the bejesus out of poor Sally, who's a graphic designer in Seattle. She's going, well, this sounds really good, Chris, but I don't really know even where to begin. But she's inspired. Yeah. She's been listening. What's one thing you could whisper in her ear right now just to encourage her on her road to becoming a better content marketer?
The important thing for us all to remember is that our words and our ideas matter, and there are people out there, our customers, they value what we have to say, they value our opinion. So don't hold back from feeling like your ideas and your words don't matter. I think that there's room for you and there's room for your opinion, and I think there's people out there that want to hear from you. So just go ahead and do it.
Chris, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.